Hello, 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 everyone. How's it going? I know I'm like 5 minutes early, so I think we'll have more folks joining in next 5 minutes. But till then, let me just quickly set up everything. Okay. Hello, 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 everyone. Okay, we have folks joining in, going out. We'll wait till like for like, let's say next 2 minutes. Meanwhile, if you haven't registered, I would request you to register quickly uh, for the stream. Hopefully that's the right one. Yep, that is. Okay, so everyone who has joined, hello and welcome. I am UT uh, Utkarsh, but everyone knows me as UT, so I introduce myself as UT. And I am a coach at MLH. We actually saw each other, as in like all of us, yesterday when I took the part one of this session where we are building a mobile application or learning how to get started with mobile app development with React Native and Expo. So I'll give you a quick refresher of what we did yesterday. Uh, First of all, folks who are joining for the first time today, welcome. And secondly, yesterday we went over basics of what React Native is, what is Expo. We learned some bits and pieces of how Expo is a framework, things that are allowed, not allowed. We actually set up a development environment, and it wasn't much. All we needed was having Node.js installed, which ensures that you have npm installed. We were working with at least Node 20, so anything above Node 20 is also fine. Uh, then we actually installed the Expo app from Play Store or iOS App Store, and we actually saw whatever we are building live of working on our phone. One of the constraints is that your laptop and your phone needs to be on the same Wi-Fi network. We also saw how we can bypass that by using ngrok or ngrok, like depends on how you pronounce it, to tunnel out and make your app visible to everyone. So this is where we were yesterday, and let me actually start the application again today. Okay, it has started. I'm going to open this in a iOS simulator, but if you have an iPhone or an Android phone and you have Expo Go installed or Expo Go, one of those things installed on your phone, the icon looks something like this, then you can actually scan this QR code and see the live version of whatever you're building on your phone. Okay. And yesterday we didn't do much. We added just a bunch of text and a button, and the button allowed us to open another app. A web browser, not another, well, technically another app, right? So the button allows us to link something to an external web browser where you opened it and you could see whatever link it was rendering, whatever web page it was rendering. We had added modals, which was fairly simple, right? But we also ensured that it had the two actions of something successful, something destructive. So like I'll give you what we have. So we clicked on sign up, and you got this modal, and you say no, then it just logs something on the left hand side saying not signed up. Sad. But you sign up and you click on yes, it opens web browser, which in this case was Safari. And it takes, like, you know, if you're doing it on your phone, it actually works out, right? So yeah, this is what we did yesterday. Now I'm going to add one or two more things before we start building a new application. Now this app, you would say that, wait, it doesn't have much, right? And that is true, it doesn't have much, it doesn't have interactions, but I think from the perspective of learning which components exist or how do you write it, this was a good static application, one page application that you we could build. It's same as like when you're learning React for the first time, or you download the React example, the first page is that counter application, right? Like with Vite or just React or something, whatever framework you're using to build a React web application, it opens a counter application. So this is kind of a counter application. Okay, simple, easy, just for understanding. But by end of today's session, hopefully when we are done with all of this, we will start a new application. And in that new application, uh, we will do more interactions, we will add tab layouts, just switching between tabs as a navigation. We'll add stacks, modals, whatever you name it. We'll add some data, we'll show some data, render some data, lists, and bunch of other stuff. Okay, so hopefully by end of day, that is my target, that at least we get started with that application, build at least one screen. And tomorrow, not tomorrow, I think on Tuesday, I have the fourth and final part of this. So I have two sessions today. This is the one. Then then we'll have a 1 hour break. After this 2 hour session, we'll have a 1 hour break, and then we'll have again a 2 hour session. So hopefully you all don't get bored. But yeah, I think it would be fun. I think that was enough rambling from my end. Hello everyone who joined right now. And what are we going to do? We are going to just move ahead. Okay, let's go from here. Let's take it from here. Let's start building. Okay, so this is what we had yesterday. And now what I want to do is very simply, I think I would like to add a bunch of stuff to this. So what do we want to do? What do we want to add? Sorry. We want to add a image. That is very important. Okay, I think that is the best thing to have, adding an image. So let's do that. Now for image, we if you have worked with React, sorry, Next.js, and you come from a React world, then you know that the Next.js is a framework, React is your raw library. And in React, you could actually render an image using the image tag. But with Next.js, you have a image component, okay, that is given by Next.js. So similar to that, we have something in Expo. Okay, so this is a image component from React Native. And similarly, if I go over to Expo and search for image, okay, they have a image component as well that we can install from Expo image. And if you look at it, uh, this is where it is used, right? It has the style, source, placeholder, content, fit, transition. So the React Native one has style, source, and probably a bunch of other properties, definitely. But for some reason, I think Expo gives you the same things, but some additional stuff. Okay. So, like, I think autoplay is one of those things, if I remember it correctly. Yeah. So, like, image and autoplay, I think that is one of the props that you would get from this. For Android or iOS, you want your image to kind of autoplay whenever someone opens the screen, like a splash screen. Like open the splash screen and there's some loader which starts loading, or your logo starts revolving or just flashing around or something like that. I think this is good. So it, the image component from Expo gives you everything that React Native does plus some extra. And since we are using the Expo framework, I think it's good if we actually use the Expo image as well, right? So let's do that. I'm going to stop the server and I'm going to install Expo image. And you can focus more on screen like this. Okay. Okay, the screen should be big enough. Perfect. So we installed Expo image library and should not have done that. I just realized. Should have committed what we had yesterday. Let me do that. Git add, git commit, added link. Let me clear this out. And now let's focus on this. So Expo image, yes. And if you remember from yesterday, I was all for not having any tilde or caret because we want exact versions. Okay. So I'm going to do npm install again. For folks who are joining today for the first time and you are kind of, if you're feeling lost, then I would say you can view the previous part on this on YouTube. And let me share the link. There we go. So that is the link that you can use to access the previous part. I think it would take too much time if I went over every line of code that we wrote since yesterday. So I'm so sorry, but I'll have to move ahead today. Okay, so we have installed the image component. Now I would prefer if I can keep this running. Hmm. Okay, and let me keep this side by side. Perfect. So npx expo start and -c removes all the previous cache. Okay, and since this is already open but it still says disconnected, I can click R, which is to refresh or reload the application. Okay, and if you are working on mac os slash Windows Windows laptop and you have Android Studio or Xcode installed with simulators, emulator in case of Android, then you can press any of these keys to open this phone. Okay, yeah, everything still works. Perfect. Now let's use this. So we have created this, we have added the image component. Let's use it. Where would we want to use it? I think right above this is the perfect place to add it. So I'm going to do image and I'm going to import it from Expo image. Okay. Now it takes in multiple props, of course. If I do a control space bar, these are the props that it takes. But we need to start with the basic prop, which should be the image, okay, the source to the image. So we could do something like source, and inside this, let's see the documentation. We can actually put in a link, a simple link. Okay, so let's start with that. Let's put a link to an image and let's see what it renders. Interesting, it did not render anything. Why is that? Because we need to specify the width and height of this. Okay, so let's try that. If we can specify the width and height, probably then it will render. So I will add a image. What should I call it? Image. Yeah, image. Let's add an image style, and inside here we can add the width to be like 200 points and height to be like 200 points, and image we need to use this, so we can pass it to image here as style equals to styles.image. Okay, there we go. So if I remove the width and height, it goes away. Okay, if I add it back, then it is here. So first thing to remember is when you're using this image component, or even in general, if you're adding image to a React Native application, you need to specify the width and the height. Okay, so it's very easy to actually render an image from a URL in this case, and it's as easy as it was in, you can say, React as well, right? Then there is this transition property, so we can add that transition, and what it does is it gives it a very nice layout effect of transitioning. So if I reload this page, you see that there's this small animation that happens when it tries to load the image, which is, I think, really cool, really nice. Okay, what else? This is good, but I don't want it to render some random image. I want it to render an image which is going to be stored in my assets folder. So what I want to render is actually, let me share a link to Major League Hacking uh, brand guidelines folder. Yeah, brand guidelines. Uh, there we go. So if you go to the Major League Hacking brand guidelines page, you can download the logo of Major League Hacking. I am going to go with the original PNG. Now, one thing to note, at least what I found during my study, is everything is fine if you want to render any kind of image. Like you can see this supported image formats. Okay, WebP, PNG, AVIF, HEIC, JPEG, GIF or GIF, however you pronounce it. And SVG, ICO, ICNS is not supported in Android or web, but everything else between Android and iOS seems to be well supported. But SVG, if you can avoid SVG, that is nice, because Android, uh, if you use the raw image component and you want to render a SVG image, Android makes it a bit laggy. Okay, so it's recommended normally that if you can stick to rendering PNG images, that is awesome. But for some reason, if you have to add SVG, it should be fine. Okay, it should be fine to go. But yeah, a recommendation is using PNG images. And yeah, even though Expo kind of takes away that pain, like you can add SVG images and it will try and convert it to a PNG internally and then render it, and it's always nice, it's always good. Not even converted, it is able to render the SVG. PNG much more supported, so you can just click on this one to open it in a new tab, and I'm going to copy the image. and I'm going to save it. Inside this, I'm going to create an images folder, and inside this, I'm going to just paste that. Okay, and I'm going to rename it to MLH logo color. Okay, so that should do the trick, or you can download it and save it. And now in this case, we still have the random image being loaded, but we want to load the image from our local. So normally, if this was a React, what you would do is import the image, right? So you would do something like import MLH logo color from dot slash assets slash images slash mlh dash logo dash color dot png, and then you'll take this and pass it directly to the source, and that's what renders it properly. Right? But then this gives this error, and I found that to actually get rid of this warning slash error, and what the documentation suggests somewhere, it took me a lot of time to actually find it, but what you need to do is you can do something like a require here, and inside this you can add the path to it. Okay, and if I refresh this, it still works. Also, since it's going outside, we can actually add the option of content fit. Like currently it's being cut off, so we can add a content fit, and keep the options are contain, cover, fill, none, and scale down. We'll go for contain so that it squishes inside. Okay, so it renders your the mlh logo properly, and I will refresh again just to be sure. Okay, so mlh logo is being rendered, which is really nice. So we got image rendering, we got the title, we got some more text, we got a button, we got a modal, we got a kind of a handle click and linking to external website. I think we are going at a very good pace right now. So any questions so far, anyone, before we move ahead? We are like nearly half an hour in the session. Any questions, anyone? Okay, I'm going to take the silence as golden, and I'm going to assume that I am the best teacher that you all will ever get. No one has any questions. Okay, moving on. So what's next? The next part, hold up, okay. I'm going to hold up. Is the code on GitHub? Not yet. So the reason why I haven't put it on GitHub, because I wanted to do something like pet, what do you call it? Proper commits. Okay, commits where we go with it step by step, and that is why I haven't put it on GitHub. Okay, there's a very good question here. Actually, two questions. Number one is how to install Chocolatey. I think that's a Windows only thing, right? And you'll have to Google that. I don't remember it from the top of my head. Hmm. Seems fair enough. So there we go. The answer to how to install Chocolatey, frankly. Second question is, so the required convention to load the image, it references the image from any folder, or do we need to put the image in specific folder structure? Any folder should be fine. Okay. But having the structure that I have right now is something that is recommended or a guideline to follow. Okay. So it's same as when we divide React things into like inside source folder, you add your components, pages, constants, utils, hooks. That's a recommended folder structure. So but this should be able to actually load it from anywhere. So like if I take it or make a copy of this in the root, okay, and my app.tsx is right here. So now if I am able to do dot slash this and just reload this, yeah, it's able to do it. Okay. So you can kind of reference the image from anywhere. I can also rename this to call mlh logo.png just so that it's more clear that it works. So going to rename that, and yeah, it works. Okay, but I think I like this better. Hmm. Uh, okay, with regards to this, I think like even in Next.js, I am at least with React, you can put the assets inside the source folder, but then your bundler will kind of try to optimize it, compress it, or try and bundle it, and it should be fine. But if you put something in the public folder, it gets passed, or when your bundling process happens, it gets passed to the bundler as is. So at least that's what I remember the difference is between putting something inside and putting something outside, as in like inside a public folder. So you can always check it out. But with React Native, what I have found is there is nothing like bundling only certain things. Okay, everything that you put in will be bundled, in general will always be converted. So the concept of example secrets does not exist when you're working with React Native. Okay, you cannot have a .env file like in Vite. You could create a env file and a .env file, and you will assume that, oh, if I put it in git ignore, then it will not be passed, and then I can add my secrets there. If you do that in React Native, I don't think that works. Okay, so there are a few quirks between React and React Native. Okay, finally, one last thing before we actually wrap up at least this application. So we got the image, we got some text, we got the buttons. I think I'm repeating this. But what's the last thing I want to have is the cards. Okay, so if we go to ghw.mlh.io, this cards is something that I want to add as the list. Okay, right here. So you'll also notice that I'm not following the best practices yet, because I'm putting everything on in a single app.tsx file, trying to render everything in here. And yeah, for the purpose of this project, I think this is fine. For folks who are joining right now and you don't have access to the previous code, that is okay, because we'll be done with this project soon. Okay, so I want to build a card similar to this. So let's do that very quickly. And the way I'm going to do that is actually we'll create a, let me just commit all this. Okay, so that's gone. So now it's more visible to everyone what we are going to be working with. And yeah, the next thing that I want to do is create a components folder, and I'm doing it right in the root here. for the time being. And inside this, I can create a card.tsx file. Okay, this is my card, and this is like each card that we have here. Okay, so that is what I'm going to render. Now, what do we need? So, in if you're coming from React world, you know that everything. Sorry, I was just looking at the chat, and I did not understand this answer. So I'm looking for the question. Oh, I found the question. Is there any weekly challenge for React Native and Expo in Career Week? No, nothing that I have organized. Okay, but yeah, if you check the GHW challenges page, I think you'll find more details about it. So there we go. Ta, ta, ta. No idea. Hmm. Okay, this is where we are. Good. Not not too bad. Okay, moving on. Yes. Talking about React. If you're coming from React, you know that to create any component, we could do something like creating a function right here. So I'm going to add that function and just return something. So normally in React, you would return a div, but in case of React Native, a div is same as a view. So that is the view, and we'll add a text here from React Native, and we'll say hello. Okay, that's it. That gets it started. And finally, same as React, you would do export default, whatever is your component name. Okay, so that's your div kind of, which is called view, and that's your p tag or h1 tag, okay, which is called as text. So at least you don't have to have multiple h1, h2, h3 up to h6 and p tag and stuff. Everything is just a text, and then depends on how you style it. Is you can give it different font sizes, different font weights and stuff like that, different colors of course. Okay, so that's the basic component. Now, what we want to definitely add in this is some props. Now, if you remember, this is a TypeScript project, and yesterday I said that TypeScript is not that difficult. So let's try and use some TypeScripty things, in this. So we'll do export type card props. You don't have to add export first. So type card props. So this is what we are going to call the type. And then what will our card have? Our card needs to have a title, which is going to be a string. Okay. It will also, like, let's see the card uh, in here. Yeah. So it needs to have a title. It needs to have a date, which is again a string. So I can add a date as a string. Then it needs to have some description, which is again a string. So I'll add description, which is a string. And then it needs to have a URL here. So like I click on that learn more and it goes to different pages. So this is also a string. So that is a string. Now what I've avoided so far is this image, right? And this image, it's not going to be a string. So what is the best option here? So image, there is something available from React Native as a prop type. It's called as image source prop type. Okay, and that should do the trick. So the image is going to be of type this thing, which has like you can have a URL or a require or an array of multiple URLs. Okay, URI more like instead of URL. Uh, but yeah, so that is why we are going to use this image source prop type actually. Now we need to pass this down here. So the way you would do it is you need to tell this card component that it is a react.fc. So it's a functional component and it takes in this card props that we created. Okay. So that is kind of what you need to use. Or you could say that now the card is of type a functional component, a React functional component with this props. And this props, we can add them right here. So we will kind of destructure them and we'll add them like image is passed, a title is passed, a date is passed, a description is passed, and a link is passed. So all of these are going to be passed to this. And I have no idea why this error is coming. Let me just reload the window. Interesting. Maybe because I'm not using it. Okay, anyways. Now, once we have the all these props, what's the first thing? So we want to render an image. So we'll use the image from Expo image, okay, and pass the source as whatever comes from the prop as the image. And we'll add styles to all of this later. Why? This is so weird. Like this is a TypeScript file. Why is it trying to run JavaScript here? Okay. Anyways, I'm going to ignore it for the time being, and maybe we'll fix it later. Okay. Next, we want to render the title, of course. Then we want to render the date. Okay, right below that. So date goes in here, and then we want to render the description. Yes, right. Make a mistake in this. No. Okay. Sorry, that's annoying me a bit. Then touchable opacity. So I think we actually touched this yesterday, okay, when we were creating our button. And yeah, touchable opacity comes from React Native. And then inside this, we can add a text saying, what is it? Learn more, and this arrow. So learn more. And for the arrow, I think it's and GT. And to this, we can actually pass the link, but we'll create a handle component, const handle press component, and that is going to be using this linking, and it will just open the URL. Which URL? The link that we pass it, right? So I think that should be it for now. We need to style it, but we'll come back to that in a second. Do I need to do import React from React? Ah, finally. Oof. See, this is why when you use react.fc, you need to be very sure, like, not very sure, but you need to be mindful. You could kind of do fc mostly, and that comes directly from here. So we don't have to do this functional component directly. Okay, I think that's much better. And touchable opacity, you need to pass it the on press, and on press will be handle press. So whenever someone clicks on or presses that learn more, then it should call this function handle press, which should internally call this opening of the URL, which will open the URL that we are passing it, right? So that's the very basic of how our card is going to look like. Now let's actually render this on our page. So right below this sign up button is where I'm going to render card. Okay. And I'm going to add like 3 cards for this. So bear with me when I like, we'll do card, which comes from component slash card, and close this. Now it is missing, it says that it is missing the following properties, which is nice. Add the missing attributes. So image is going to come from somewhere. Okay, can I take the link to this image? I think so. So I'm going to copy this, and let's try and add the image as a link. And it says this is not assignable, which is very weird, but we'll figure that out later. Then we have the title. Wait, do I need to add it like this? And then add it inside in this. Still a string. Weird. Okay, the title to this. So the first one is called what? Career Week. What is the date? November 8th to 14th of November 2024. So I'm going to copy that as well. Then the description, which is this thing, and I'm going to copy that and add it right here as a string, and the link to it, which I can open the page and add that as well. Okay, let's see, does it get rendered? Everything except for that icon. Okay, we can kind of download these icons locally. I think that would also help. Oh, also, it's quite possible that maybe because we don't have the width and height defined for the image, maybe that's why it's not rendering. So let's do that. So we can do const styles equals to style sheet, which comes from React Native dot create, and that's going to be an object, and we can just give it image, and inside the image what would be the height and width. uh, let's say height of 40 and a width of 40, and then use this image right here and pass it as style equals to styles dot image. Okay, there we go. Okay, so string was correct. This is being a problem, so I think we'll need to kind of pass it as actually right here. Instead of image prop source type, if I make this a string, yeah, I think this should get rid of that warning slash error. Even though it works, for some reason it keeps saying that. And now this learn more, it is pressable. I click on it and it opens it right here. So I can go back and yeah, there we go. So we have successfully rendered a card, okay, a card component. Now if I render this 3 times, okay, I have 3 cards. Nice. If I render it 6 times, I should have 6 of them, right? But you'll find that this becomes very weird. Okay. It pushed everything up. Okay. That is kind of understandable. But also, this is not scrollable. Like, trust me, I'm trying to scroll it. Anyone who's working on this with their phone, you'll realize that it is not scrollable. So again, a quick theory time, for which let me come back on screen. So in if you're working with web development and you have something that goes out of screen, it kind of overflows, you automatically see this scroll bar, okay, and you can scroll on screen. But that is not the case with React Native or let's say mobile development. You need to explicitly tell it that, hey, there is a possibility that this can get big, and you'll have to add a component around it, wrap it inside a component to let it scroll. Okay. And there are like multiple components that are available for that, like to make it scrollable. So if I go to React Native, you could use something like a scroll view, and you can say that anything that is inside here, it gives you this scroll bar, so you can wrap your things inside a scroll view. And this is nice and all, but then I found that what's better, it is flat list. Okay. So scroll view, it renders all the child components once, but it has performance downside. Okay. It has some performance issues basically, because if you have lots and lots and lots of data to render, which sometimes happens, okay, sometimes happens that you have loads of data to render, then in that case, scroll view would be a bad idea. Why? Because it tries to load everything before the page is actually visible to the user. It tries to load everything. So now if you have like let's say 1,000 of those cards, it will try to load 1,000 of those cards and the performance would be janky. Now the other option is flat list. Okay, so flat list, it has this property of virtualization and lazy loading. So only whatever is visible to the user plus some. Okay, so again, if you have thousands of things, it will load only 100 of it, which would be very quick. The other 900 are there, but it will be loaded once the user starts scrolling. So once user starts scrolling and they reach like let's say 20, it would load the next 20 or 30 or 50, whatever. Okay, like that, it decides what how much it has to load. But yeah, that is one good thing about flat list. And with flat list, you can also pass it some other properties, like you can tell it what to load or how it should look like when there's no data. Okay, you can pass it an array of objects and it will automatically like find the things. It will, you can create a render item separately, a separate small functional component, and pass it to flat list that this is how you need to render it. Like, so we'll pass it our card component, for example. So when you, multiple things, but let's say that whenever you have to map over certain things, okay, or you have to basically add multiple things to load, or you have to render like card like 10 times 100 times, you have to load text like 10 times 100 times. Whenever you have to map over an array of things, go for flat list. Okay, so by default, go for flat list. Scroll view is something that you should, I would say, rarely use. Okay, so yeah, with that, let me go away and you can focus again. So we'll use this flat list component to kind of render our all these cards. So I'm going to actually remove all of them so that we are left with only one of it, just for the time being. And let's add flat list. Now, where should we add it? That's a very big question. But before that, should we style everything? I think, yeah, we should style our stuff, right? So, what should we start with? The view will have a style equals to styles dot a card. Okay, it should look like a card, right? So I can do a card, and I will say align items to be on the flex start. Okay, what else? Background color, we cannot use direct colors, so we need to go into our theme and create a new color. I will create a new color and call it actually dark gray. I think, yeah, I think that should be fine. Yeah, so let's say dark gray. G-R-E-Y or G-R-A-Y? I'm confused about the spelling. I'll go with EY for now. Going to be a string and 1C1C1E. And this would be like theme dot colors dot dark gray. Perfect. So that is one thing. And then where is it? You can add some border radius to this. So border radius of 10. Yeah, add some padding inside so that the text is not stuck to the border. So 16, and we can set the width of the card to be like fixed, so like 300, let's say. Okay, dark gray was a bad idea, it seems. uh we can use, I need this and more lighter. Yeah, I think this should be fine. So I'm going to call it now light gray. Okay, yep, much better. Okay, what next? Image, we have already provided a style which we had nearly forgotten, and I was like, wait, why is this not rendering? uh the title, right? So styles dot title, and let's create this title style. Well, for this, of course, we want a bigger font size, so I can go like, uh let's say color of it should create a dark gray again, which should be a darker version. I think, yeah, this is perfect. Okay, so theme dot colors dot dark gray, so that is the color of our text. We can create a font size of like 24, I guess. Let's say font weight to be like bold or something. Yep. And margin bottom 4, so that there is some margin between the text. And yep, looks much better. Or we could have a dark background and the light text. Okay, now I'm confused. Anyways, let's leave that for now. What else do we want? We want to add this text color, right? So this is what? This is our date. So this would be our style equals to styles dot date. And we need to create this one. So C and D. Well, font size, it would be smaller than our headline, so 16. And below the date, we want some margin as well. So margin bottom of 8. I think that should be fine. Yes. And it is different colors. For the purpose of our one, let's stick with one color. So I will create a color of theme dot colors dot red. Okay, and we need to create this red. So I'm going to go here, create a red color, and yeah, I think this is fine. There we go. Okay, so I logo is done, career week is done, the date is done, the text. Do we need something for the text? I think the text should be fine enough, right? uh, the description. Okay, let's add something. Description and DE. So that should come right here. So if you remember, Prettier will force us to kind of write things in alphabetical order. So that is why I'm doing this. So font size of 16 again, and more spacing between the description on the top and bottom and between this. So I can actually add a margin vertical, okay, which adds both top and bottom. And we can keep this as 16 as well. So 16 points, top and bottom, and more spacing between top and bottom. Yep, I think that's good. The color, I think it's white, and I think that is fine. Sorry, it's black, and I think that is fine. We can go for a lighter shade of gray if we want, even more lighter shade. So BA, ba ba ba. So I can create a light gray 50 and add that as a string. So light gray 50 is what we are going to give it a color. So color of theme dot colors dot light gray 50, and I think that's too light. Should make it slightly darker. 80, 80, 80. Okay, that's fine. And finally, the link button. Also, a slight plug right here. If you remember this from yesterday, we built it during open source week, and I have some like high hopes with this project right now. This project being like the color conjure. Okay, anyways, going back. So the card is done, the date is done, the link text, yes, that's what we need to style. So we can style it right here. So we can go like the style equals to styles dot link text, and let's add that right here. And now this one's interesting. Why? Because it needs to have a different color again. uh, so I'm going to say like color is theme dot colors dot yellow, and we need to create this yellow color. So I'm going to go over here and create a string. And for yellow, let's go back. Uh, yeah, I think this should be fine. Oops. Okay, I did a control X, but that's okay. And this is fine. And now it says that expected the class names to be in ascending order. I can go into fix all the auto fixable problems. And that, what else? We want the font weight to be like bold, and we also want to add a font size like 16 points, and that's good. Okay, now I think the background should be dark gray, and this could be light gray, much more visible with the yellow. Okay, perfect. There we go. So that is our card done, at least styled from the from our perspective. Okay, and the learn more button, even though it does not exactly look like a button, it does work like one. Okay, so that's our some basic styling done for our card. And now we need to go to our app.tsx and add the flat list, right? Yeah. So inside our app.tsx, what we need to do is add the flat list component. And where would we add it? We would add it on the top. Okay, everything else could be rendered inside the flat list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of remove this comment right here. Don't need this right here. The view, oh, what was that? Anyways, and the view, I'm going to comment it. Okay, and let's start fresh kind of. So step one, flat list. We import it from React Native, and just like let's auto close it. Okay. Yeah. What else? Now inside this we have multiple things. We have first the list header component. Okay. So what should be rendered at the header? And at the header, we actually want this view component. Inside that, we want the image component. Okay. So flat list, inside that we have this list header component. It renders all at the top of all our items. Okay, as it says. So this should be basically whatever we had in the header. It will also then eventually get this text component, this body text component, this body text, and even the sign up, right? So all of these things, whatever we had before, all of those come in here. And let me just get rid of all these backticks and these things. Okay, perfect. So everything that we had at the top just before the card, everything comes as a part of our list header component. It has the touchable opacity, it has the text, and what else? Yeah, I think so. I think that should be fine enough. Okay, so that is the first part, list header component. Then we need to tell it the data to render. Okay, what data to render? Now in the case of our card, we know that it needs to have these properties. So let's create very quickly a card component. So const not card component, a card data. So card data equals to, or we can keep it as like card data so that it's like more obvious that it's a constant, right? And that is equal to an array, and inside that array we have the following things. Now instead of equals to, this would be more like key colon value, and everything would end with a comma. Okay, and so image, that's done, title done, date done, description done, link done. We can also add an additional property which could act as a key for us, which would be the ID. Okay, it doesn't have to be a string, it could be a number as well. So there's our first one, and we need to just repeat this two more times. So now we know there's one thing at least that will be definitely unique in this card data, which is the ID. Everything else, at least for now, is same. So we can go back to data and pass it the card data. So that's another thing. What else is required? It says that a render item is missing. Okay, that is important. And yeah, I think so. At least for the time being, render item is missing. So we need to add a render item uh, component. Okay, so render item, and that will be, that's something that we need to create. Okay, so we can go above this return inside this function, and we can create a render item very quickly. So we'll say const render item equals to, it will take in a prop, which in this case would be an item. Okay, and what will it return is, it will return the card wrapped in a view. So view, and inside this is the card component that we remember importing from our local components, and we can pass it the image. Okay, now this item, okay, what is the type of this item? Now this is very interesting. What would be the type of this item? Because right now if I go like item dot, it does not give me any suggestion of what this item type, like, what should come here. But in our case, we know that this item type is definitely going to be, so item, the type of it is going to be, so type of whatever card data that we have, okay, which is an array. And inside this array, all these objects, even if this data changes, the keys will be same, right? So we can say type of card data of 0. So now if I do item dot, it gives me suggestions like, oh, maybe you want image. Okay. Then for the title, we'll go like, okay, item dot title. Okay, this is one very good thing about TypeScript, right? It gives you these suggestions if you have properly typed it. Date is done. Description would be like item dot description, and link would be item dot link. And there we go. Now we can take this render item and pass it to this render item right here, and that kind of gets rid of all the errors. So now I'm going to reload this page just so that you can see it, and there we go. I think this looks bad but it renders everything, and now it's easy to scroll. This is the whole reason why we went with this, right? Flat list. We should be able to scroll. Some other properties that are important. Remember this ID property, which I said will be unique. Okay. So you can pass that as a key extractor right here. And you can say that for item, it would be item.id. 'Dot. I D. 'Dot. I D. 'Dot. 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 Mm, wait, what? Oh, it needs to be string. So ID needs to be a string. Whatever is the key that you're giving, it needs to be a string. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to convert all of these to a string. Perfect. That's also helpful to know. Then we can create a item separator component. Okay, item separator component. And as the name says, it is basically to add some separation between everything. So I can create a view, a inline view for this, and we can pass it some styles. So like currently it does not do anything, but we can create a style equals to styles dot separator and then create it right here. So with the separator, what we want is some spacing between the things, right? So we can just add a height of, let's say, 16, and it needs to be in ascending order, so it should be above the other one. Okay, so there we go, some separator between them. What else? What else can we pass to this? We can pass something called as the content container style, and you can pass it some style. So what is this? It says that these are the styles that will be applied to the scroll view. Okay, so we can create something like that they are suggesting. You can do exactly this. So I'm going to go like styles dot, we'll call it scroll container. I'm going to add it right here. And inside this, what can we add is some padding, some vertical padding of 20, let's say. And again, okay. So I think we have done everything except for ensuring that this is more like center aligned. Okay. So let's do that. Let me remove everything additional. Not using status bar right now. This. And wrap all of this inside a view, right? And in this, I can kind of give it a style. Should I give it a style? I think actually you could actually add styles to this. Style equals to styles dot card container. Okay, and let's style this. Should be coming right here. If my alphabetics are correct. Uh, we can just say align items to be center, and there we go. Perfect. And we can add some padding on the top. So a margin top. Okay, there we go. Center aligned and scrollable. We can always change the data, right? And that's kind of the end of our first project. So, what have we done? And it may not seem exactly too much, but like let's say we have successfully actually added a bunch of things which will be reusable. Okay, let me take this image and add it right here. So it would be reusable. So what have like I'll quickly recap over a few things. Uh, so number one, we actually added a single image. Then we added text, we added buttons, we added card component, which is a component and it is reusable. You can add your own data to it, and we link to external website. We rendered images from URLs as well as from local. Okay. And what else? We used flatlist so that we could get a scrolling view of things. And with flatlist, we also found that it's it's kind of easier to scroll between things. It gives you this header component, which is anything that you want to render above the above whatever you are mapping over, like before whatever you're mapping, before anything. You can pass it a data, which is an array or array like list of items to render, and you can pass it the render item, which is the component of what needs to get rendered. And if you realize that we are not doing a dot map over something, okay, we told it what the data looks like, we told it where you should render it, and everything else was handled internally by flatlist. Okay, it went like, oh, it takes an image as a prop. I have whatever data has been provided to me has image as a prop. It's very easy to pass it over. Okay, so that's nice. There's this key extractor to extract a unique key so that you know it's passed to React, and anytime anything changes, React will use that key to ensure that only the changes are re-rendered. There's this item separator component which would be like rendered between each item. Okay, so somewhere here is where this item separator component is. You have a content container style, which is some styles that you can apply. Not really necessary, let's say. Okay, it still works. I can refresh it again and it will still work, but just something to note. And we added a bunch of styles, and there's a component, and that's it. Okay, so this is the end of our first application. We have what, like 45 minutes left for the end of this session. So what I'm going to do is we'll create a new app. Okay, add some basic stuff, which is like our ESLint. We'll add uh, prettier. We'll do that bunch of stuff. But before we start the new application, any questions, anyone? Anything? Any questions about anything that we have built? Should be visible on your phone as well. You can kind of scan the QR code and check it out how it looks on your phone. You can change the padding and other stuff, right? Okay, it seems to me that everything is fine. Let me come back on screen. Okay, is there a way to have the web version update automatically? I'm not sure I understand the question. The web version, as in when you start this as a web. Oh, like as in on your phone? Most of the time it should. Oh, yeah, open in a browser. Okay. I'm not sure. For me, it says that if you want a web support, I'll have to install all of these things, and I haven't done that. And I think it should automatically kind of reload. Okay. As far as I know, I think it should automatically reload. Yes, but when I try to do that, I press W to open it, and it says that you are trying to use web support, but you don't have the required dependencies installed. And it's asking me to install all of this. And yeah, and that is why like I don't have it yet. But I think in general it should work automatically. You shouldn't need to refresh again and again. Uh, Probably need to look at the documentation once. Okay, so that concludes our first application. Now, without wasting any further time, and for everyone who was not exactly uh, yeah, not exactly where I had started with, we'll start fresh again, okay, with a new application, and I'll go through some of the concepts that we had done yesterday, and I'll yeah, we will build it together. I'm going to close this simulator. I also need to find it and close it because it was causing some problems to me. Simulator, force quit. Yes, please force quit it. Okay, done. That's gone. And next, I'm going to cd outside of this directory, just clear everything, and let's create a new application from scratch. So we know to create a new application, the command is npx create dash expo dash app, and it would be mlh reminders app, and then we'll pass it the template, right? Blank TypeScript template is what we had gone with yesterday. So that's there, and let it install. So to create a new application, this is the command. The MLH reminders app is basically the part where you pass the name of your application, and the dash dash template gives you that nice options of which templates you want to add. Okay, so I chose the blank TypeScript because while it's blank, it also has TypeScript support built in. So I don't have to add all those things. And I'll paste the command in the chat. This is what the application is going to look like. And I will open this in a new VS Code window. Could have, yes, this is why I don't share the code yet because I have made so many changes. I could add more comments to this and stuff. And this is the wrong place to open it. We need to go inside cd into mlh dash reminders app and then open that one, right? Okay. Next bits, if you remember correctly, we want to get rid of all these things, make it exact versions. That's what I'm doing. Expand this one for the time being, zoom in a bit, and since we have made some changes, we can do npm install to reinstall all those changes, and there is a problem. It says no matching version found for Babel Core 7.20.0. So I should not have closed what I just closed. Uh, Interesting. Where did it go? Hmm, there it is. The application that we were working on. So the Babel version is this thing. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy over everything, okay, all the dependencies, and paste it right here because we know that these were the exact versions that we wanted. And similarly for all of this. So when ESLint gets installed, Prettier gets installed. Okay, now I am going to run npm install again. Okay, that's done. And what else? So this is our old one, and this is our new one. In this, I can actually use Peacock. Do I have Peacock installed? Yeah, just to show you the difference. Okay, I've added some Peacock green border. Yeah, and this is the old one, and the Peacock green is the new one. We added iOS web. We should also add the lint and lint fix commands, and a comma is expected right here. So lint and lint fix is added. Dependencies have been added. Uh, Anything else that we need to copy over from there to here? The configuration, the ESLint RCJS. So we can go in here and .eslint rc.js and paste that right there. Prettier RC, copy this one, paste it right here. Git ignore, for some reason my VS Code folder is highlighted. So before I commit that, I am going to add it right here, IDE, which should be .vs code and .idea, is it? Yep. Don't want to push that, of course. Don't want to push VS Code and compiler options. Yeah, this is interesting. So compiler option extends the Expo tsconfig base, and that is inside the node modules actually. So what we want to do, I would say, is for the time being, just copy all of this outside so that it's easy for you to understand. Okay, strict true and all compiler options goes in here. We don't need compiler options and compiler options again, and we don't need this again, and that should be fine. So it extends exactly what it has right now, which might sound very weird, but this is just so that anyone who works with this project, they can exactly see what are the compiler options that you're using. Okay, so you can take this, oh, actually keep it right on the top. So it is exactly the same, but if you want to add more stuff to it, you now know where to add stuff to it. Okay, and okay, some errors already. So let's fix these. We can do npm run lint fix all the errors. Everything gone except for this one, which is color literal is being used. We should define it in a theme file. So let me do that. So theme.ts, and what we had to do was export const theme And inside this, we can create a colors object. And inside this, we can create a white color, which will be a string of FFF. And export const theme equals to. And this would be comma. And this would not be a semicolon, comma. Perfect. So export const theme, and that is what we can use right here. We can go theme, which is imported from dot slash theme dot colors dot white. Okay, and actually, I'm going to call this white 100 because the project that we are going to build, it will have multiple colors of like fading shades of white and stuff. Okay, I think that should be fine enough. Let me run the npm run lint fix again, which is our fix command that we just added. I don't need this anymore. Thank you, old project. If you have an old project, it's very easy to set up a new project. Just copy paste lint fix. So anyone who joined today for the first time, what you exactly need is the scripts, okay, the dependencies more like. So add these dependencies and add these dev dependencies, the versions, ensure that it exactly matches what I have. Then what you need to do is add the prettier rc config. My major config is print width 100. This is what you need. Everything else is secondary, I would say. And the ESLint RC config, which I'm not sure if I'll be able to share it in the chat as is, because there's a limit on the amount of characters you can send, right? So there's the ESLint RCJS, the plugins and rules, which also go in ESLint RCJS. Okay. So, okay, I am so sorry about this. I'm going to take, I'm going to wait on this. I've shared what you need to add. So just copy that and paste it in ESLint rc.js file. So dot ESLint rc.js file. Okay. I'm going to wait here for the time being. Once done, just let me know and I'll switch over to Prettier RC. Actually, I can keep both of these open together. And this is what you need to add in your Prettier RC. Okay, the silence is killing me. Uh, okay, what are we going to build? Let me talk about that while uh, everyone's copying over stuff. So we are going to build a reminders application, and someone uh, rightly called it a to-do list yesterday. And in a way, yes, what is a reminders application? It's a to-do list, and that seems to be the first thing anyone builds. But I think that's again a very good starting point. Okay? For anything that you want to learn, you can learn it in multiple ways. And when you start building something to learn something, I think that makes it easier. And once you have the basics done, then you can build on top of that. So we are going to start with our own version of to-do list, which would be called as reminders app. Okay. And that's what we created. And it is going to look exactly like not exactly, at least we will see what features we can add today, but we'll have, okay, and try to visualize this. We will have two tabs to navigate through. So there's your all reminders tab and completed reminders tab. These are two tabs. There will be a button which on click of that button, it should open a modal and it should, inside that modal, you will be able to type uh, your reminder. Okay, so you will be able to add a title of the reminder, and the title is all we need. Okay, we don't want a description and very lengthy things. So we'll add a title. We will add a icon. Okay, uh, not icon actually. We'll add a title. We will add a priority to that reminder. If it's a low priority, medium priority, or high priority, we should be able to add a date of when is this reminder due, or what is which date is this reminder for. A time, of course. So date, time, title, uh, priority, and yeah, I think that should be it. Also, you need to add a feature to complete. Okay, mark a reminder as completed, or if it is completed, mark it incomplete again. Okay, so it's like a reminder to study. Okay, which is due today, like 10th of November. So you mark it as completed, and you have completed it. But tomorrow tomorrow you realize, oh, I forgot to do one chapter. You incomplete it, and it should come back to your pending reminders, kind of all reminders. Okay. So yeah, this is the idea that I have in my mind, and we are going to build from there. We'll start with adding navigation first. Okay, everything aside, we'll start with adding simple navigation. You should be able to navigate between two tabs. How do you add tabs at the bottom of your phone app so that you can navigate between them, switch between them, and also add a button, right? So that you can navigate to a button which opens a modal, stuff like that. Okay, so that's what we are going to start with. Okay, I hope you are done. So that is ESLint RC and Prettier RC. We did not make any changes apart from adding this theme colors in app.tsx, and we added this theme in theme.ts, which is at the root. I can share that as well in the chat. Ts config.json does not need any changes. It does not require any changes. But what I did was I copied over all of these things and added to this compiler options which already existed. And yes, lint is done. Package.json, yes. Now this is different or more evolved, so I can share that as well in the chat. So this goes into package.json. The dev dependencies also go into package.json. Okay, it's too much for YouTube to handle in a single line of text. But hopefully, at the end of it, it should be fairly simple. And we need to do just npx expo start dash c. If you have the Expo Go app downloaded on your phone, Android or iOS, you can just scan this QR code and see a live preview of what you're building. In my case, I'm going to open it in a simulator. Otherwise, I'll need to do a screen mirroring, which is a headache in itself. Okay, and this is a fresh version of our app which opens. Okay, nothing has been written in terms of code. All we have done is added some libraries to take care of formatting and linting, yeah, stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to close everything. And what is this? Where is this coming from? It's coming from app.tsx. And I will, for the time being, call this as reminders. And there we go. This text changes quickly, automatically, automagically, whatever you call it. Uh, okay, now let's move ahead. What we want to do is start with navigation. Now, if you remember, React, I told you like React Native does not come with any navigation. Okay, you need to install a library for it, and a very popular library is actually called React Native Navigation. React Navigation. Okay, and this is more for React Native. Okay, yeah, wrong link. Yeah, React Navigation Native, and you have different types of navigation. What all do you have? You have a tab view to switch between the tabs. And if I can find it, yes, you have a tab view. You have, let's say, a drawer layout. Okay, click on it, open a drawer, close a drawer. So kind of a menu bar that comes from your left and right. Uh, then you have a stack. So they click on that what is called navigate to album. And what is a stack navigation like? So, like, let's say this is tab, okay? NPM to yarn to PNPM. This is a your tab navigation. Just think of it a tab navigation, but at the bottom of your screen. Okay, somewhere here you can add that. Now with stack navigation, what happens in a browser? Let's start from there. Let me close this. So from here, if I go over to challenges, so ghw.mlh.io/challenges, then to slash schedule, and I click on back, it comes to challenges and then to homepage, right? Let me start a very fresh session of this. So now this back should take me back to the home screen. Now go to challenges, go to schedule, go to swag, FAQ sponsor, and let's start coming back. Sponsor to FAQ to swag to schedule to challenges. Okay, and back to home. So you are going like more on the right, and then you're coming back on left. A stack navigation in phones is like stacking over the top. Okay, so stack overflow. That's where the term comes. You stack over the top, and when you have too much, you stack overflow. Your stack overflows, not you stack overflow. Your stack overflows. So with stack navigation, you're basically opening screens on top of each other. Okay. So when you click on a back button, when you're, let's say, on the top of the screen, you're basically saying remove this from the stack and you come back to whatever was previously rendered. And then you say back and then you remove this from your screen and you come back to whatever was previously rendered, right? So you basically come down, okay, and you stack kind of goes up. So that is so one thing to remember here slash understand here is that you always have your previous screen rendered below. Okay, that always exists. Whenever you open a new screen on top of something, a new stack screen on top of something, the previous screen has stayed there. It's right there. Uh, so yeah, that was one concept that I wanted to explain. So you have stack navigation, you have tabs, you have drawers. At least these are the three things that I have come across. Uh, you can say modal is also kind of that. Like, let's say I'm waiting for this to actually click on open a modal and it opens from the bottom. So, yeah, a modal is like a pop up. And even you can think of a modal as a stack thing. Okay. Yeah, like when someone clicks on that modal, it comes from the bottom on top of it. And you can see that the home page is still behind. Okay? It is rendered behind. So stack is very similar to this. Yeah. Okay. So I think these are enough concepts. So in our case with Expo, there is something called as a Expo router or router, however you pronounce it, and it is a file-based uh, routing slash routing uh, navigation, file-based navigation, which means that if you create a file with a particular name, that becomes a route automatically. Okay, so you have a file called as index, so that is your main or slash route. Then you have a file called as reminders, like so that would be like your slash reminders route. So if you want a nested route, what you could do is create a folder called as uh, let's say reminders. Okay, a folder called as reminders. Inside that, you have your index, which is like going to slash reminders. But inside that, you have uh, completed reminders. So the path would be like slash reminders slash completed reminders. Okay. So if you want nested navigation, you could create a folder and inside that create files with different names, and that becomes your nested navigation. So React Router is built on top of actually React navigation library, okay, and gives you some additional functionalities. But the best thing that I like is that it gives you this file-based routing. And if you're coming from Next.js, it's much easy to understand that, right? And to add it, what we need to do is we don't need to install all of this. We need to install this Expo router, React Native Safe Area Context, React Native Screens, Expo linking, Expo constants, Expo status bar. And SD, this is for SDK 50 and above. And I'm pretty sure we are on 51. Yes. Okay. So for us, we need to follow this. Then we need to, in our package JSON, there is this main, which is like expo slash app entry.js. And actually, this file exists inside the node modules right now. So inside node modules, if we search for expo, there's the app entry.js. Okay. And currently, our package JSON is referencing that app entry.js. But once we install the Expo router or Expo router, we need to change that to actually reference the Expo router slash entry.js file, you can say. Then we need to also add something in our app JSON, a deep linking scheme. What is deep linking? So sometimes when you, let's say you are on Twitter or Instagram. Instagram. Okay. Let's say you're on Instagram, and from there you open link to Twitter. Okay. Or actually, even in Chrome, let's say you are on a news page website, a newspaper website, and there it has a link to Instagram or Twitter, and you click on that icon, your phone gives you that pop-up, right? Do you want to open this in Instagram or do you want to open this in Twitter or do you want to open this in Chrome? So like that pop-up, how does it understand that someone is trying to call the Twitter application? And that happens because of deep linking. So in that, we will say we'll have to add a scheme and we'll write the app name. Currently, it actually has something already. It has a name and a slug. We need to add an app name to it, which would be same. So now when someone opens our web, like there is a website which actually links our app, which is called MLH Reminders app. It will then understand on the phone that you want, like do you want to open, or at least it will give the user an option like do you want to open this in MLH Reminders app, and they'll say yes and your app will open. And we are not developing for web, so I'm not going to add this. And I don't think we need to make these changes, but let's see. So let's start this. So I'm going to copy exactly this thing. And I'm going to also paste this in the chat. Okay, Control C this and paste it right here and hit enter. That should install one, two, three, four, five, six libraries, I guess. Yeah, six SDK. And the best thing, remember yesterday I was talking about if we use npx expo install, it will install the libraries with the compatible versions of Expo. Okay, Expo 51 point compatible, which is really nice. We don't have to figure it out on our own then. Okay, so that has been installed, but unlike the delays, I'm going to remove that and just do a npm install again. Once that is done, let's go back to documentation. Also, I'll share the link to documentation for anyone who is following along. Need to update this main in package.json. Let's go to package.json and update this main. Don't forget the comma. Then in our app.json, let's go to app.json and right below this, I'm going to copy paste that and call this scheme. Yeah, scheme. And don't need to do for web. Ensure you use the Babel preset Expo as the preset. I think that's what I'm using, but let me go and check. Yes, Babel preset Expo. So it says either use that or just delete the file. And now clear the bundle cache. Sorry. Uh, yeah, clear the bundle cache and restart. But before we do that, and hopefully everyone has reached till this point, all I did was copy paste from their documentation. Okay. Before we do that, we'll also create an app file, an app folder, sorry, an app folder. Inside this, we'll create a index.tsx file, and I'll take whatever we have in app and paste it in index. Now the theme is now going to be slash no slash theme. Yep, there we go. And I'm going to delete this app.tsx. Clear it out and let's start Expo, npx Expo start with the fresh version. So clear any cache by doing minus C or dash C and reload if you already have a version. And there we go. It still says whatever it was saying before, but we actually kind of added Expo router and it works. Okay. We haven't changed anything here. Uh, so yeah, I don't think it would actually matter, or at least a difference will be visible. But we know that inside app, yeah, inside that we could add index.tsx, and inside that we have added all this. Now I have like 9 minutes left. I don't want to start the tab navigation right now because I have another session right after this. Like I don't want to leave you all in middle. So I'm going to stop the stream right now. Before that, any questions, anything that you haven't followed yet? We removed app.tsx and actually created a index.tsx, which would be like entry point. The index files are normally the first entry point. So that is why we created a index.tsx. You can call this anything. Example, you can call it like reminders screen. Okay. And that would still work. Any questions, anyone? before we end this session? Okay, I'm going to take the silence as golden, and I'm going to assume that again everyone has followed it through. They have the basic setup done, and in the next session, which is like after 1 hour, so have a quick lunch break or snacks break or breakfast break or whatever works out. Uh, we'll come back and we'll add navigation and start building our first screen of reminders application. Okay. So if there are no, which I think there are no questions, thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you back in approximately an hour. Okay. And meanwhile, during the break, I'll also try and push this on GitHub so that it's visible to everyone. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. Cheers. See ya. Bye bye. Oh, if anyone is around, here is the link to the Reminders app. I have posted on GitHub successfully. Okay, so there we go. There is the. I had an initial commit with something else for some reason. Okay, no worries. And yep, so when we come back, you can actually use this to have access to everything that we have done so far. Okay, cool. Let me just highlight this quickly and we'll end this session definitely now. Thank you so much everyone for joining, and I'll see you back in 1 hour approximately. Yeah. Cheers. Bye.